So I wanted to show a little bit about how I communicate with my ancestors, especially a particular group of women in my ancestry, my second through my fifth great grandmothers on the maternal side, following the maternal side, that lived in the Ozarks. First, I start with my pendulum. Blood of my blood, my Ozark women. Do you want to talk today? Okay. So circles for me are yeses. Sometimes I'll get specific and I'll call them by name, each one, and ask them if they want to talk. Because sometimes it's just one or two of them that have something that they want to say, and I want to give them individual time as well as group time. Ellender, do you want to talk today? Okay. Polly, do you want to talk today? A little bit. Okay. Cyrilda, do you want to talk today? She is really heavy, so that means we're going to be doing some spell work because she is my big one on spell work. Okay. Mary Ellen, do you want to talk today? Okay. So with that, Ellender is my very, very quiet one. She doesn't really say much, but when she does, you really need to pay attention because she's doing some deep stuff. So it's not surprising that she doesn't want to talk today. Polly is generally, if Cyrilda's wants to do spell work and create something, then Polly is also there. Polly is very much ethics and responsibility, where Cyrilda is a little bit more chaotic and kind of a little less fear of danger. So you sometimes not sure exactly what you're getting there. And then Mary Ellen, usually when Cyrilda is really heavy, Mary Ellen is a little on the quieter side. So these are how I'm experiencing and how I've been experiencing and getting to know these specific 4 grandmothers. Since Cyrilda is the main one that wants to talk, we're going to use the Season of the Witch, the Samhain Oracle. That is the bottom one, and it is my primary ancestor deck. So my ancestors own this one, and this is their deck to speak with. And then Seasons of the Witch, the Yule Oracle, that is for actions. So specific elements of whatever she's going to give me are specific actions that need to be done with this. I have a feeling about what we're going to be doing because Leslie and I are putting together a special ritual that is very kind of similar to the bridge spell, but a little bit different in the aspect of what we're going to be doing and what she's doing. And so it's very much for the 2 of us, but also includes ancestor and past. And she's going to be doing her part in Scotland while she is over there taking a trip. So excited for her. And I am going to be doing mine here on our property. I have already gotten generalized things before from what elements are going to go into this ritual, what we need to be doing. I have talked with our deities to see what elements they're putting in and helping them guide me through creating this. And so we're going to have a conversation this morning to find out a little bit more. Or could be something completely different. I never know until I'm in the cards. Okay, so this is definitely going to be a little bit interesting. So up here, I asked Cyrilda to tell me what she wanted to say. And down here, I asked Polly what she wanted to say. And then what's hidden. So this is going to be really interesting. So Serilda was talking about apples, and apples for me are the blessings and curses. Everything has blessings and curses to it. And I'm not talking curses so much in the way like hexing people and that kind of stuff. No, I'm talking about the duality. So anytime that there's a blessing, there's also something, you know, you got to give up, or something that's not so nice that you didn't want that comes with it as well. And so it's really talking about blessings and curses of the healer and healing, both. So really kind of specifically talking with me about healing a particular blessing and curse. And then the witch card. So all of them have a different type of magic, a different way of how they manifested in the world. And so this really kind of speaks to bringing ancestor in, but I have some questions. So we're going to draw some more cards in just a minute. So on Polly's side, she was talking about the shadow. So this is inner knowing, my shadow self, my soul. And so that is going to be a key component about what is in this. This is about blending two things to make a third. Are you listening, Leslie? Two things to make a third. That's been something that's been coming up quite a bit in the rune journey that we just did. And also in other work that her and I do together. And it really is kind of blending both of us, because in the work that we do, we are also very much duality. And then potions and spells. When my ancestors give me this card, we are literally talking a spell. And it's really, really interesting that it's Polly going to be giving it instead of Serilda. Serilda is usually the one that does all the spell work out of this group. But Polly has something. So we're going to be pulling some cards here too, because I'm curious. And the reason that I know this all has to do with the ritual that's about to be done and between Leslie and I, because of the wolf. This is really speaking to Fuela Negas Fia, which is something of mine and hers. This is the hidden card, something to, you know, give you an overall, or something you're not seeing clearly, or something you need to see very, very clear. I see it very, very clear. So I'm starting here about the blessings and the curse and the healer. And these are the cards that came out in the story that's kind of being told. So there's mischief, there's nature spirits, there's elders, and there's haunted. It's talking about being clever, being a little bit tricky in what we're doing, but using our mind, being clever, looking at this logically as we create these sacred spaces. Really bringing in and listening to our ancestors, our elders, our wisdom, and their wisdom. You're not doing this alone. And we know that we're not doing this alone. And that they are going to be there with us as we do this ritual. Yeah. So anytime that I want to go deeper, if I get a specific card or a specific thing and I want to go deeper, I do. I start drawing more cards. And so next, I've gotten the base general reading. I want to know what actions go with this. What is she wanting done with this? So we have the story down here. We're going to need to be clever. We're making sacred space. We need to be listening to our wisdom and listening to the wisdom of our ancestors, our elders. And we're not alone. So within this, I drew 2 action cards to kind of see the action pieces within that. So there's self-care. And that's talking about balancing and priorities. So in the cleverness, making sacred space, we really need to be specific on what is important and balancing both sides, because we're balancing between seen and unseen from present and past. And that's part of what this is. And so Bear Medicine kind of has two connotations to it for this specific thing. So Bear Medicine, you think about it, you know, they're going into their reflection, their hibernation piece. So reflection is part of that, but also considering the specific deity that Leslie is working with this, and one that I believe is going to be joining her on her journey in Scotland. It really has that, you know, awake and asleep, but also when it comes to Kari and the Kaliak, they have that turning too. So they're young and reborn in the spring and go through that cycle of life of being young in the spring and growing in the summer and then getting older and coming into their elderly period, their old wisdom in the winter. And it kind of goes in a cycle like that, thus this kind of cycle. So we know that we're making sacred space. We know that we're healing some blessings and curses. We know that we're doing it with our ancestors. They're going to be part of it and with us, not the center, but they're going to be part of it and with us. You know, we need to balance some things. We need to do some reflection. We need to see cycles, and it really is that bridging, not just of places, but of time. So next, I wanted to ask a little bit more about the witch and that area. So these are the cards that came out. So third harvest. This is about gathering. It's the last of the harvest. It's the last celebration. It's the point where you're moving from one season to the next. So that transition period. And it's also the season that we're coming into and will be at in these areas. So it is a transformation. It's a movement. And it's a gathering. Gather and celebrate. Rebirthing. Altar. Again, sacred space. So with this, she's telling us that the witch, which is Leslie and I that are going to be doing this. It's really about gathering together, rebirthing, bringing back something, allowing something to reemerge. And it's all about sacred spaces, both physical sacred spaces, but also sacred spaces within us, because we've gotten that. The last one was, you know, really dealing with inner. So that's inner sacred space. This is outer sacred space. So next, we're talking with Polly, because Polly doesn't stand up to give potions and spells. So I'm interested. I wanted to know, you know, what it was about and some elements of it. And so that what is about kind of a thing. You've got crystals and herbs and transformation and seduction. So it's really taking physical aspects, so like physical objects, physical world things, and our passion, so emotion. So it's kind of that mix of intellect and emotion and letting both guide and transforming. So there is a transformation, whether that transformation is going to happen through the ritual or whether we are creating that transformation within the ritual. I'll need to do some trance work and start to get some specifics from her. Like I said, she doesn't normally give me spells. I can't think of really hardly any that she's given me. So, yeah, you're going to need to go deeper, but it's going to have to be something besides just cards. We're going to have a conversation to be a little bit more clear. And then down here, elements of it. So telling stories. And, when we're talking about what we're doing, is about histories. It's about our ancestors. It's about the past. It's about our deities' stories. And so, yes, very much telling stories are going to be an element of that. Tranquility, inner silence, giving them space in order to communicate and talk, and for us to really be listening and not be distracted by other things. Yule log. So candle. There is some kind of light that's bringing together. And it's really interesting because the day we're going to be doing this in Scotland is going to be a partial solar eclipse. And so, yeah, light and dark, that duality is really going to play a part in this. And it's both of us doing it together on the same day, hopefully same time. We're still working that out. So, yeah. And then Bear Medicine. Again, really, she is going to have Kaliak with her. Kaliak is going to come out during this trip, and she is going to be with her. I heavily feel Kari and Kaliak just emanating from this. So, yeah, that's going to be really interesting. I'm just going to leave Bear Medicine alone. Because I have a feeling where that's going and why it keeps coming up. So, yeah, that is a little peek into some of the ways and how I approach communication with my ancestors. And granted, medium work, trance work, these things play a role too, but these aren't things that I can show you and give you ideas for. That's a different type of communication. But this is something that I think that everybody has the ability to do and can do. And you can use different tools. Using the pendulum with them has been incredible for me because I can ask questions. I can ask if I'm understanding something right, which I will be doing later. If I'm understanding something correctly, if I'm missing something, if I mistook a meaning, they will let me know. I love using the pendulum to see who it is that wants to talk so I can be very, very specific, especially with this group. The Ozark women are not the only ancestors I work with, but they are been a primary group of ancestors that I've been working with for several months now. And we've been doing some really deep work. I have been learning so much about them and their lives. And it's been really incredible getting to know them, building that relationship. But realize it is like every other relationship that you will have. It's going to take time. You're going to have to put in effort. It's a relationship. It's a bond that you're building. So don't expect it to happen overnight. But it's pretty incredible when you start diving deeper and really building that bond. The things that they can tell you, the things that they can give you are just really incredible. Like I said, this particular group of Ozark women, they wouldn't have called themselves witches. Well, Cyrilda would. Oh, Cyrilda would. She is my force of nature. But the others wouldn't have considered themselves that. They wouldn't have said that because that's not of their time. But I do think I'm kind of getting them around to being okay with the word. They use it now and they're kind of upfront about it. So it's kind of neat. It's neat to see, even they can grow, I guess. But they were healers. That is kind of what they consider themselves, healers and protectors. And so they didn't really label it anything. It just was something that was. Which is interesting when we think about how we, argue and fight today over words and stuff. And to them, it just was something that was. So yeah, I hope you got some ideas of different ways that you can communicate, different ways that you can use tools in connecting with ancestor. Even if you know nothing about ancestor, you don't know your history, you don't know where you come from, you can call out to them and they will still work with you because they are part of you. And I like using blood of my blood. That way I know that I'm connecting and very specific, that I am calling that which is connected to me by blood. A lot of people will have some trouble with ancestor work because they're focused on their current family, their recent family. And you have a long history, as long as humans have been alive, history of ancestors. You do not have to work with the recent ones. You might actually find it a lot more difficult to work with the recent ones. So go back a little. If you can do ancestry and do your line, I've been doing it for a really long time and I've gotten so far, and I absolutely love it because I get to see and find stories about these people. And I've found stories about my Ozark women. I've found stories about some of my really old ancestors. And I love seeing the stories and knowing that the story isn't truth, but there's truth in that story. Because, everybody had their own perspective of what happened, and the only person that knows the actual truth is the one that was in it. And so, yeah, there's all kinds of things that are really incredible when you start tracing your lines back. I know that's not an option for everybody. Not everybody can do that. So just call out to Ancestor and see who shows up. See who wants to talk. See who wants to communicate. And it doesn't have to be anybody recent. You can even be more specific and, ancient ancestor, go way back and, start connecting with that energy and listening to their stories and seeing what they have to tell you. This is the season of ancestors. And granted, that doesn't mean that they're not there all year round. They are. This is just one of those heightened points where we're thinking about them, thus we're giving them more room and more space in this world to come through, to talk with us, to be there with us, to guide us. So yeah, if you haven't done ancestor work, maybe you should try it. Even if you don't know who they are, and even if you have problems with your current living and recently deceased, that shouldn't stop you. You should still try to connect because they have a lot of wisdom. They have so much they can share. I know for me, working with my ancestors, my Ozark women and my other ancestors that I work with, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And it's one of those connections that is very similar to divine and my connection with divine, yet so different. I think it's because we are part of each other. I don't know. It's different and it's amazing. And I really recommend people connecting with Ancestor. I know that can be hard, but everything worth doing is a little bit hard. So think about it. Have a great one.